Welcome to another episode of College Cash Corner podcast. We are your hosts, Tara,
Natalia,
Victor.
Today we're diving deep into the world of financial aid. Joining us are some of the fantastic people from MCC's financial aid team. And they're here to break down everything you need to know about the FAFSA, grants, scholarships, and more. Whether you're a freshman just starting your journey or a seasoned student looking to maximize your aid, this episode is packed with essential information to help you make the most of your college finances. Let's start. Can each of you who are joining us today go tell us what your name is and what you do in financial aid? And maybe we'll start with Myra.
Sure. So hello, my name is Myra Hernandez. I am a student service analyst senior, new position, but it's a supervisor for our part-timers to help support our welcome desk and our front counter. And I do training for the FAFSA here in our office.
Hi, I'm Janet. So I've been working part-time financial aid for about a year now. I mostly help out with the forms and that kind of stuff. And at the welcome desk, guiding students through our FAFSA workshops and any general questions they have about financial aid.
My name is Amory. I'm a temp. I've been with MCC Financial Aid for almost 2 years now. I started doing awarding, I help with scholarships, and I also help on the welcome desk and front counter when needed.
Okay, my name is Tan, and I'm a part-timer. I also help with awarding, SAP, and the welcome desk.
Hello, my name is Emily Perkins, and I'm a part-time physician at Mesa Community College. I help award students with their financial aid, and I also help students at the front counter. I am also helping with SAP and MTF, so maximum time frame appeals, and I also just assist students with general knowledge questions here at MCC.
My name is Brianna. I am the outreach specialist in financial aid, so I primarily do events like presentations and workshops to help students and maybe other staff members understand more about the financial aid applications, scholarships, and other types of ways you can get funding for your schooling.
Great, thank you. And are any of you current college students?
I am, yeah.
I am as well.
Me as well.
So we'll get started with just asking some questions about financial aid. The first one is, how would you define financial aid?
I can grab that question. So really, financial aid is money that is given to or lent to a student to help them fund their education. And this can be given to them from the U.S. government or the state. These types of fundings can be grants, loans, which can be like Parent Plus loans or private loans. They can also be scholarships and even federal work study.
All right, and I'm assuming that in order to receive this financial aid, one of the big things is filling out the FAFSA. Is that correct?
Yes, in order to get these fundings, the student will need to complete the FAFSA forms. And for those of you who don't know what FAFSA stands for, it's the free application for federal student aid. And this form needs to be completed on a yearly basis. So this can really help determine the student's eligibility for financial aid. And again, that includes the Pell, subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, the Parent Plus loans, and federal work study.
Even just with financial literacy, we're always telling the students, fill out the FAFSA, right? And then financial aid is also saying, fill out the FAFSA, remember to fill out the FAFSA. Why is it so important that students fill out the FAFSA?
Well, I can answer that. So it is required to fill out the FAFSA every year if you are a student and you're using FAFSA for the school year. And it's very beneficial to students. A lot of them have this misconception that like, oh, it's only meant for low income students or people who don't make a lot of money, but that's not always the case. And so we always tell everyone to fill it out, even if they feel like they don't qualify for it. And either way, there could be a chance that you can get free money to help your college education.
Perfect, thank you.
So if a student start to the fall semester and then fill out the FAFSA, will they get funding during the fall semester or will the aid be offered in the spring?
So it actually depends. As long as you have remain eligible, like student can still receive aid. However, if you only attended the fall, not the spring, you will not receive aid.
Okay, and I think you mentioned that you work in the SAP part. Can you explain a little bit what this means and why it is important to understand it?
So SAP also stands for Satisfactory Academic Progress. So what this means is that this is a tool that all students must be meeting at the end of each semester in order to determine if they qualify for aid. So Satisfactory Academic Progress is a calculation that schools use to determine if a student is meeting all of his or her educational requirements to be able to graduate on time with a degree or certificate. So there are a lot of different areas within SAP that a lot of students are not very well known what they are. So in order to qualify or meet SAP, a student must be meeting a cumulative GPA of 2.0 each semester. They also must be meeting the pace of progression, which is they must be meeting 2/3 of all attempted credits, including transfer credits from other schools. And they also must be meeting maximum time frame. So maximum time frame is the evaluation of all attempted credits, including transfer credits for all financial applicants and recipients that have not meet the maximum time frame credits. So this can be a little confusing, especially because SAP is also a part of maximum time frame. So another thing to keep in mind is that students who have reached over 150% of their credits that they have used, they will be flagged for maximum time frame. So it is important that a student understands that when they are coming back to school, let's just say if they have a bachelor's degree, they will be flagged for maximum time frame and they may not be eligible for aid because they have passed that 150% mark. It is important that a student does meet the 2.0 GPA and that they understand that they have to be passing their classes as well for all their attempted classes. There are ways that if a student is not meeting SAP, they can appeal, but their appeal form must be an extenuating circumstance. So it's important that a student reviews their circumstances and that they know what they're getting themselves into before a semester starts, because if they're taking a lot of classes and they aren't prepared for the classes that they're taking, they may not be meeting SAP if they do fail those classes and they are not meeting pace of progression as well.
Emily, could you explain a little bit more what happened when a student changed their major? What's the requirement or what happens with that 150 percentage of credit?
Yeah, so in order to be eligible for financial aid, a student must be in an eligible program of study, and they must be taking classes within that program of study that will be able to be funded for financial aid. So a student can take classes, I believe, up to a certain amount for their degree, but if they go over that 150% credit mark of their degree, they will be flagged for MTF. So it's important that a student knows how many credits they have until they reach that 150% mark. And as long as they're taking a program of study that is eligible for financial aid, then they will be able to have financial aid.
And if they change the major, that 150 percentage gets erased, or they need to reapply for the financial aid with the new program?
Not necessarily. So MTF is a part of their all attempted credits. So even if they do change their major, they will still might be flagged for MTF because they are taking all these courses still. So it's important that whenever they do change their program of study, that they are meeting with advisors to make sure that they are in classes that will help them get towards that specific degree that they are wanting to achieve, to get a certificate or a degree, whatever that could be. So it's important that they know what they're getting self into if they do decide to change their degree or program plan, and how many credits they have left to complete in order to attain a certificate, that degree that they're hoping to obtain.
Back to the FAFSA for just a second. There's been big changes with FAFSA, and to our student listeners who attempted or have filled it out, they probably know exactly what I'm talking about. What should students know about that?
The FAFSA simplification started back in 2023, and they've done these minor changes, started taking out questions from the FAFSA to make it a little bit smaller, because the original FAFSA was around 180 questions, and it is now condensed down to 80 or less questions. So that's a plus. But one of the biggest changes for the FAFSA is the FSA ID rollout. So prior to this year, if your parent did not have a social security number, you had to print out that signature page, sign it with the pen, put it in an envelope, mail it out, and wait about 30 plus days for the FAFSA department to get it and process it. The new update is that now you can do a FSA ID online, even if your parent doesn't have a social security number. So now they're using like the union tax questionnaire to figure out your identity. And then once your identity is verified, now you can sign the FAFSA electronically, which now takes away that whole 30 plus days of waiting for your parent to sign the FAFSA. So I think that's amazing in itself right there. But within itself, now it turned into a role-based application. So you and your parent or your spouse are no longer on the same computer working on the same application. So now essentially the student is going to be sending an invitation to their contributor. And so that's a new terminology. So a contributor would be considered your parent or your spouse. And then that invitation goes to the contributor, and now the contributor is going to allow access to their tax information to get put into there. With the new terminology coming out, also the EFC term is going away, which that used to stand for Estimated Family Contribution. And essentially, they're just rebranding the name itself. It's going to now be called the SAI, which is the Student Aid Index Number. Also, another big change with the Pell Grant is that we are actually going to start awarding students by the credit hour versus by their status. So right now, we're awarding you if you're considered less than half-time, which would be 0.5 credits to 3 credits. And these people would all get the same amount of money. Well, now, if you're taking 1 credit, but the other person is taking 3 credits, that's going to vary now. So you'll have different amounts of a Pell Grant depending on the credit. So that's a big change. And then the other one, and we kind of already talked about it, was contributors must make their own accounts and contribute to the student forms, which is making up their own FSA ID and getting that invitation. And there's no more data retrieval tool where the FAFSA is taking you to the IRS and you're plugging in your info. Now it's automatically tied in, and there's just one screen where it's asking if you would like to give consent. If you say no to the consent, then you're automatically denied financial aid. So it explains that all to you in the application. And that's another real nice thing about the FAFSA is in the beginning, it gives you a 4-screen tutorial of what's expected, how long this is going to take, the consent, the invitation process. So in all honesty, I feel like it's a way easier form to fill out. Unfortunately, there's just been a lot of bugs in rolling it out. But that's why we're offering all these workshops, for students to come in, for the parents to come in so that we can sit down and help.
Yeah. I know that when I was in college many moons ago, right? That I remember just dreading filling out that FAFSA form because it was so many questions. And it was I know that one of the times I filled out a physical form.
Yes.
And then another time I was online. Yeah. That just tells you how old I am. But
And, I really like the consent of the FAFSA, or not the FAFSA, the tax information now.
Yes.
Because it's like, they have that information. Why can't you just fill it in?
And it sounds like all you do is hit a button to say, fill it in. And
and so now it's all tied in there. So it's actually a really easy application We just got to get the government to work the bugs out, and then it's going to be smooth.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Just
go for it.
out of curiosity, why would you not accept the consent? Like, what are some of the information that they might require that you don't want them?
So the number one thing that comes to mind about why a person would not want to provide consent is really that they don't understand. A lot of parents feel, and there's a question later on about misconceptions, but this is one of the biggest one. A lot of parents, which would be a contributor, feel that if they give their information up, somehow whatever the student takes out, it's going to fall back on them. And so they don't want to give their tax information. They don't want to open that up because they think somehow they're going to have to pay this back for the student if they don't succeed. And I know this is very old school, but there's still a lot of conspiracy, anti-government. That would be a reason I feel like a lot of people would say no to the consent. The great thing about the FAFSA application is when you say no, a like warning screen will come up and kind of ask again, like, hey,
Are you sure?
are you sure? You know, you're saying no, and this is what's going to happen. Now your student's not going to be eligible for any type of financial aid. And it gives you the option to go back and change your mind. So you literally have to say no like a couple of times to do that. And if it continues to be a no and they still submit the FAFSA, it will come to us, but in a rejected status.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to talk to the student and kind of be like, we got your FAFSA, but it's rejected and we're not going to be able to award you any financial aid.
So if you tell the student this, right, and they go back to their parent and they're like, please just allow it, right?
Yeah,
and the parent changes their mind then.
Yeah.
They fill out the FAFSA again?
I believe that they'll be able to go back in there and now provide consent. And I'll say this too, in the past, I have talked to a lot of parents and convinced them to put their stuff on there. As financial aid professionals, that's part of our job is to help parents understand the logistics of the FAFSA and their responsibility to the student and what they may be responsible for, which is nothing. You know, it's just providing the information on the FAFSA, but just making them feel comfortable that this is helpful for their student and it's not going to come back on you if they completely fail out. You know, the consequences are going to stay with the student.
Right. Even if they end up taking loans and all of that, doesn't fall
like
onto
that. It doesn't fall onto the parent. So I think once you have that conversation with the parent and we make them feel comfortable, 9 times out of 10, I've had a parent go back in and.
Okay.
What happens if the parent totally decide that they don't want to share this information? Is there any way for the student to don't like allow this?
Yeah.
Or like,
so we do have those situations where a parent just puts their foot down and is like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do this. I don't take care of them. I don't financially support them or anything like that. But there's not like an extenuating circumstance of they're independent. I just not going to financially support them.
Okay.
Right. So we have a form that's called parental data override. And basically the FAFSA comes in rejected. The parent and the student sign off on this form saying, I'm the parent and I say I'm not financially supporting this student. The student signs off saying, I understand my parent doesn't financially support me. And I understand that now I'm only going to be eligible for unsubsidized loans.
Okay.
So we still try to help them out, even when they're in a situation where the parent's not budging. Just the unfortunate side to that is that it's an unsubsidized loan. And so the minute that you borrow it, the interest starts to occur.
And the student will be responsible for paying
And the student's
that
responsible for
interest.
paying for that interest, yeah. So it's the only downfall to that. And that's why Janet was speaking on what are the benefits, of doing the FAFSA. It's even if you're not eligible or you don't think you're eligible, it doesn't matter. Just fill it out because you could be eligible for institutional grants. Even with that situation, what if a parent doesn't want to do it? We could still try to help you out, even though, it could be an unsub loan. Financially, we could still make it work out.
Well, and I also know that many external scholarship applications will require you to have filled out the FAFSA.
Yeah.
Whether you got financial aid or not.
Right.
They still require that you had filled that out.
Now, say if a newcomer or like a current student right now has a question of financial aid that we haven't hit on, what should they do?
So we have a bunch of different ways to get contacted. And Janet, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so we have an email, so they can contact us through our email. We're also located in the enrollment center. I feel like a lot of times students think that we're separate, but we are with the enrollment center with admissions and records. So we help out with that. We're on chat. So if they have any questions online, if they don't feel comfortable coming in person, we also can provide that. And we also have a phone number. So if they are more old school and would rather call, we have that for them as well on our website.
All right, so they can call on the phone, they can come in person into the enrollment center, they can email, and there's chat.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a lot of different ways.
Yeah. We're here.
And we might get an Instagram.
That's
so
great.
They can also
Can they also do
Instagram
live
us.
online or what?
We're working on it.
Uh,
We are working on
Oh,
it.
nice.
So when you guys log into our website and you go into the financial aid page, Thor comes up and says, "How can I help you?" We are working on trying to get a live agent on that. We're just not sure how, in the logistics of all this, how it's going to work, because we do have a chat
Yeah.
that chatting with the online person. So we don't want to duplicate too much stuff, but we are working on trying to get a live agent when that pop-up guy comes up.
Yeah, that's good.
If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you will see in the screen the information about the financial aid.
There's something that I really like to promote to students to check out to see if they're eligible, and that's federal work study, which is something that could be an option after filling out the FAFSA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So could you tell us a little bit more about federal work study?
The Federal Work Study program is funded by the federal government. So this funding provides employment opportunities for students with financial eligibility, allowing them to earn money to help finance the cost of their education. So students can get on-campus jobs to help provide for their cost of attendance. And as well as students can also apply online at our NCC website by filling out a federal student interest form. And then once that gets approved, they can reach out to career services to help find them a job that's available on campus. So how this federal work study position works is it is up to 19 and a half hours, so about a part-time position. And they will need to fill out a FAFSA as well as meeting SAP. So those are some stipulations that students will have to meet in order to qualify for federal work study. So it is paid as a check every 2 weeks. So those are a little bit about what federal work study is and how some students can also work on campus and pay for school. So it's a win-win situation.
We do always encourage students to look for part-time jobs on campus because they're here, right?
And it works with their school schedule
And it works
too.
with their school schedule. Now, you did say that they have to be meeting SAP. So if they've got this part-time job under federal work study and then suddenly they're put on, is it probation?
Uh-huh.
Can that affect their employment then through federal work study?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is something that for all financial aid eligibility, they have to be meeting SAP.
Okay.
So it is important that if they are in SAP, that they talk with a financial aid technician to know how their federal work study position will be affected, and furthermore, how their working position, they're going to be able to qualify for aid now. Because if they're using federal work study as a way to pay for their school, there may be other options that they may be eligible for to pay for school.
Okay.
So it is an option that they can look for other ways to qualify for aid if they are not eligible for federal work study.
Okay. And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that if you have a federal work study job, right, that when you fill out the FAFSA for the following year, that income is like not counted against you.
Correct.
Because it's federal money.
It's grant money.
It's grant money.
Mhm.
Okay. I think a lot of people aren't aware of that they feel like, well, I get federal funding, and I don't want to screw that up by having a higher income, right? And so, but this doesn't count towards that. That's an amazing deal.
Yeah. I think the only misconception is that because it is a grant, students expect that full grant right up front.
Got it.
But like Emily mentioned, it's
A paycheck.
a paycheck.
what happens if you use that paycheck in other ways? Like, are you allowed to use that money freely, or it
Yeah.
needs to go through your tuition?
No, you can use it for whatever you want.
Okay.
Because mind you, the work study doesn't go out when the rest of your financial aid goes out. So like if you have a Pell Grant and another scholarship and federal work study, the Pell Grant and the scholarship are going to disperse fully out, pay for tuition and fees first, and whatever's left over go out to you. The federal work study will only start going out in little increments of 2-week paychecks,
Okay.
right?
Oh, okay.
So
That makes
let's say you decide that you have to quit that job, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to shorten that. You're going to see your federal work study get shortened to what only you earned.
Okay.
There could be also other situations where you get a lump sum for that term, but for one reason or another, you and your supervisor miscalculated hours. Your supervisor might come to you at the end of the term and say, hey, I have to have you stop working next week because you earned too much money, or, for that semester. So there's a lot of little things that could happen depending on how many hours are earned or how much money is earned, or, stuff like that. So
You don't have a minimum wage, like you don't like how it works.
So you do actually.
Okay.
They will say, okay, you're getting paid $15 an hour, or your position is worth $17
Okay,
an
I
hour.
see.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Or let's say too that sometimes you start off at 15, and so then the government comes out and say, hey, there's a pay raise coming up. Right? So now you get bumped up 50 cents or $1 or whatever it may be. Well, that's going to kind of throw off the budget for the year. So then at the end of the year, your supervisor will come to you and say, hey, we ran out of money
Okay.
for this semester, so I can't have you come back to work until the next semester starts.
Got it. Because there's just there's a finite pool of money to
Yes.
pull from to pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have Pell Grant, federal
Student
scholarship, student loans, and federal work study. You could do it all.
You could, but there's a cap.
Okay.
So for financial aid, we call it cost of attendance. You cannot be awarded over your cost of attendance.
Okay.
So just playing around, let's say that your cost of attendance for fall and for spring is $20,000. But let's say that you got awarded $25,000 between all these awards, right? You're going to have to consider which one you're not going to take, because you can only have $20,000.
You don't take the loans.
You don't take the loan.
I was gonna ask, what's the recommendation?
Yes,
Whatever
and that
it
is
is.
our number one recommendation. Don't take the loans. If you can get all the free money that you can get at $20,000, take the free money.
Yes.
Typically, too, once you start wanting to do federal work study, the student loans don't fit in there.
Okay.
And so we'll call and have a conversation with the student, like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Do you want to work, or
Do
take
you
out
want to
this
work
debt
for that free money?
Right.
Or yeah, exactly.
Or do you want
put
to go in
yourself
debt right now?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but and it's all about that student's preference, their life situation, and everything.
Yeah.
So the best that we could do is just give them their options.
Yes.
And give them the pros and the cons, and then they can make the decision for their life.
Absolutely.
We actually have a federal work study part-timer right here.
Yeah.
Emery. So, I mean, she could, say some things
Yeah,
about
I started as a federal work study here, so I was interviewed and everything and went through. I started at 19 and a half hours a week, and then I got, I don't know how to say promoted to regular part-timer, so I could finish my 25 hours and get like a little extra money.
So some
Okay.
departments have the availability of, let's use federal work study money first, and then pay you the extra 5.5 hours.
So that's what I do now. I clock in as federal work study Monday through Wednesday, and then Thursday I clock in as a regular part-timer,
Okay.
so I could finish off my 25 hours. And it's still the same pay rate and everything, like either or position, because that's questions I get a lot. It's the same pay. I'm not decreased or anything for certain hours. And we accumulate the same sick time. It all works out pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Because
That's a big deal.
the pay rate is established by
The supervisor.
the supervisor, right? So that's how it doesn't vary. Okay.
Yeah. So it varies. And each department on campus has their own little set of budget for Federal Work Study. And so that's why we encourage all departments to advertise for Federal Work Study, because we want to use that money up. And we want to let the government know that, like, we need it.
Yeah.
So then that way they can keep giving it to us and maybe give us more.
It's creating
instead of
demand
taking it away.
for it. Yes.
Yeah, and I go to school on this campus, so it's just really easy, like just going to class and then immediately clocking in to work, like a 5-minute walk later.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You don't have to use gas money to
Yeah,
get to your job.
really.
You don't have to you don't have to worry about your vehicle breaking down or
I
not
know.
catching the bus or
Right.
the bus is not running or late or yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's talk about the misconceptions or myths. Talking to a student, encouraging them to fill out the FAFSA and he was like I think I qualify for loans, but I've got a really terrible credit score.
Oh,
And I was like, FAFSA has nothing to do with your credit score. Is that something you guys have heard or been asked before?
so we do not check credit scores for FAFSA at all. The only asterisk that I want to say is we do private loans,
Okay.
and private loans are the only ones that are credit based.
Okay.
But anything to do with the actual FAFSA, it does not run your credit at all. But they do look at your taxes. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that's where students kind of get that mixed up.
Okay.
Because it is looking at some type of financial stability,
Right.
but not your credit score.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then with the private loans, is it looking at the student's credit score, the parent's credit score?
It's looking at the student's credit score.
Okay.
And from my understanding,
Mhm.
it's like your normal credit run process, right?
Okay.
If you don't qualify, you want to get a cosigner, and then they
Got
run
it.
the credit on your cosigner.
Okay.
So it's just like a bank.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, who's got the
Who's
credit
gonna pay the
score? Yeah.
interest?
Right.
I think one of the biggest ones that we've been seeing lately has to do with being independent. So a lot of the times students will come in, they live on their own, they provide for themselves, they pay their own taxes and whatnot. And then they turn out to be under 24 and they say, I'm dependent, right? No, that's not the case. So if you're under 24, even if you live on your own, regardless of the tax situation, you're still considered a dependent of your parents or guardian. So that's kind of what we talked about earlier, what Myra said, the parent override form. It's kind of hard because a lot of the times the students are like, well, I do pay for everything on my own, right? That's one of the big ones that we have to explain to students is what a dependent versus independent student is. And then help them, of course, find the forms that can help them proceed with getting grants or loans, whatever the case may be. Another one is that FAFSA doesn't pay for one credit classes. So that's us. I know we even offer classes that are like 0.5 credits. As long as you qualify, you should get the grants for that. But I do know you can't take out loans for less than 6 credits. So that's kind of an open-ended question. FAFSA doesn't pay for the 1 credit. Grants could, but loans no.
Okay.
And then another one, Pell Grant is free money that I do not have to pay back.
I have a lot of students when I work at the welcome desk and front counter, they'll come up to me and they'll say, do I have to pay this money back? I don't want to have to pay this money back. I don't want any aid. And I'm like, no, this is free money. You can take it. This is yours, what you do with it. The only thing you do have to pay back is loans. And like disclaimer, like every student is different. Every situation I've seen a lot of situations happen. Initially, Pell Grant money is free. You do not have to pay that back. Scholarship money is free. You do not have to pay that back. We are giving this money to you, said student, in good faith that you are going to go to school, go to class and finish these classes and pass them. Unless like there's like situations of like when we can get into fraud or like if a student like gets the money and then does a complete withdrawal, then it's up to, I believe, district if we take that money back then. So it's all on professional judgment. But initially, like, this is free money. This is good faith. You do not have to pay this back.
When they are awarded this, offered this, I'm assuming they have to sign for it or acknowledge it.
They have,
Or
it's
does it
like
just
the
show
free
up?
money
The
is
FAFSA
offered and accepted.
Okay, it's offered and accepted.
Yeah.
But in their student center, they have to then go in and accept either the loan, and then from then on, those are different steps.
Yeah.
But students can go in there and decline all the awards if they want. I've had students that decline all their awards. They don't want the grants, they don't want the loans, they don't want the little awards we give out. They don't want scholarships. So they can do that all in their student center, or if they do have questions, they can come in and ask us as well.
And when you
Okay.
were talking about, I'm sure they sign and acknowledge all these rules, it's in the FAFSA.
It's in the FAFSA.
When they're signing their FSA ID, all that small print, all, because as she was talking about when we would be taking money back, I thought about another scenario too. Sometimes students go to class or actually they don't go to class and they never show up. And unfortunately, the teacher doesn't report that until after the money has already dispersed out.
Oh. Okay.
And so if a student gets a withdrawal, but that code is a certain code for us that implicates a no-show, under federal regulations, we have to take that money back.
Okay.
Right? So like as Amaria was explaining, like, yes, it's free money, but in good faith that you're going to finish all of your attempted classes.
I'm assuming they get the money before classes start.
They get their money 9 business days after their classes have started.
Okay.
But like I said, sometimes the teachers don't report the no-show until maybe a month or 2 later. It's like I'd rather them report it even that first day because they just dropped the class, and then we can adjust their financial aid prior to money going out. That would be the ideal way for it to happen, But unfortunately, there are some situations where your Pell Grant free money could be taken back from you and you would owe it to the school. There'd be a debt here.
I was gonna ask that the request money back will be just a debt to the school. Or,
Yeah, it would be to the school, and then what happens is now holds get placed on all of our 11 Maricopas, and you're not going to be able to enroll in classes until you pay that debt off. So that's the bad side of when your financial aid gets taken back. There's sometimes too where we have late starting classes. If you have a class that starts at the beginning of the semester, we're going to give you all the money, even for those classes that start later, right? Some students unfortunately decide, never mind, I'm not going to take those late starting classes. And they don't realize, well, now I have to reduce down your grant
because it's based on credit hours.
Based on credit hours. Right.
Got it. Another thing that I heard a statistic saying that something like 30 to 40% of college students pay for school, tuition, everything using credit cards.
Ooh.
I don't know what the thinking is behind it. Maybe credit cards just seem easier, or I mean, in some respects, it could be. If a student came to financial aid and said, okay, what's better, student loans or using my credit card?
This is our financial aid motto. It depends.
You know what? Financial literacy, same thing.
Same thing, okay. So, I mean, in that retrospect, I think it's in the preference of the student, right?
Okay.
Because I do private loans, and that has nothing to do with FAFSA.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of preferences. Maybe it has to do with family, too. And not only that, but I think the misconception of FAFSA, and I don't qualify because I make too much money, they throw out the FAFSA out right away. Right. So when I catch a student in this area of like, I don't know what to do, or I'm going to use my credit cards versus my student loans, I just always like to educate the student and say, okay, you're in a situation where you're going to be in debt no matter what, right? Yeah. You're either student loans, that's debt, credit cards, that's debt. So why not research and look at the interest rates? Look at what is going to be more beneficial for you. Not only that, but then look at the repayment options too. Student loans have wonderful repayment options, right?
And many of them.
Many of them, right? So are you in a position where making a payment while you're going to school doesn't matter to you and you can handle that? And your credit is amazing and your credit card has a super low interest rate? Then yeah, go with that because that makes more sense for you. But if you're struggling and the FAFSA saying that you don't are not eligible for a Pell Grant and your student loans are the only thing, because they're not credit based, that's plan B.
Yeah.
Right. And then now you have the option of also not taking the full loan. You can make the loan to your actual just tuition and not take out whatever they give you. Because they kind of give you a lot of money every year, right?
And that's
like,
the mistake I made in college.
Me too.
I was like, they were like, here's $15,000 for the
Okay.
year. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, I need that much. I just thought that's how much I needed.
Yes.
And then it turned out
You
that is
don't.
not.
You don't.
And I came out with way more debt than I needed
Yes.
to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, always ask.
Yeah.
How do
You
you
know?
adjust that? You need to go to your financial aid.
So the way that you adjust your student loan, couple of ways. First, when we award you a student loan, we offer it only. We don't offer and accept it to you. So you have to go into your student center and you have to look at your student loan and you have to accept it on your own.
But you accept the amount?
That's where you can edit it.
Okay.
So in that moment of accepting your loan, you have the option to lower it.
Okay.
You don't have the option to ever make it higher than what we offer you, right? But you can definitely lower it. So the only thing I tell students is student loans come out in 2 disbursements. So if you were wanting, like some students only want $1,000 and they only want it for the fall, right? But in the beginning, we award you for the whole year. So I always tell students, like, if you only want that $1,000 for the fall, make your loan for $2,000. It's gonna split $1,000 for the fall, $1,000 for the spring. Once your fall money goes out, come back and cancel your spring money. You don't have to take both disbursements.
So they have to accept both the loans in each semester.
Well, it's just a lump sum that they're accepting.
Okay.
Our system is breaking it down.
It breaks it down. Okay.
Yeah. So, but a lot of students kind of misunderstand that part, and so they'll put 1,000, and then it splits 500 for the fall.
500.
And it's like it wasn't their intention, but that would be my reason why a student would be choosing a credit card over their student loan. I think it just has to do a lot with interest rates.
Yeah.
With the repayment options. In all honesty, is it their credit card? Because it could be their parents' credit card.
Yeah.
Me working in the Parent Plus loan and the private loan section.
Yeah.
I had a lot of parents that said, I don't want them creating this debt under their name.
Yeah.
I want it created under my name first.
Okay.
And so Parent Plus loans fall under parents.
Yeah.
Private loans, I have no idea if it's a cosigner or not, or who's paying for that, because that's, not on me.
Yeah.
So the credit card thing, somebody else could be helping them pay for it too.
This is true.
Yeah, so even though I am the student loan person here at MCC, I'm always like, are you sure?
Right. That's good. That's good.
Let's see what else we can do. Let's look at scholarships. Let's look at grants. It's like, but when we're here and it's student loans versus credit cards, the very first thing I want to say is they're both debt.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're okay with that,
you pick
now
your
let's
debt.
talk. Yeah. Let's pick our debt. Let's see which one's better.
So with the private loans, is there an average interest rate right now?
So no. And one of the big no-nos for financial aid is not to advertise a specific lender.
Got it.
And so I never know the logistics or anything of the processing of that private loan.
Okay.
Yeah. So interest rates could vary. Depending, because it's credit based.
Yeah.
Right. So it depends on your credit and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I did a little bit of calculating to compare like your average APR or interest rate on a credit card versus a federal student loan, right? Yeah. And so I looked up the interest rate. So a credit card today, the average interest rate that people pay on their credit card is 24%.
Oh my God.
Right. And a federal student,
that's crazy.
A federal student loan, the interest rate is 6.5%.
And that's the highest that it's ever been.
And it's the highest it's ever. It was 3%.
Yes.
When I was in college.
Yeah, it was like it started at 2.9, went to 3.5, 4.7, and now we're at 6.9.
Right. So, and then I put this information into a calculator. Now, granted, it's a little bit different, right? Because of the way that the funds come in, let's say. But I did it borrowing $25,000 up front, either way, like my whole $25,000 from the federal government and my whole $25,000 put on a credit card. I wanted to see how long it would take to pay it off. Right. So the federal student loan, I found out that to pay it off in 10 years, I would pay $285 per month. The total interest paid I would pay in interest was $9,000. So total money paid back is about $36,000. That was the federal loan.
Yeah.
All right. I borrowed 25. I ended up paying over 10 years, a total of $36,000 back. Credit card.
Oh, gosh.
So first I put in $285 a month is what I want to pay.
Yeah.
It did not ask me for my age. It just told me you will not pay this off in your lifetime.
Oh my goodness.
So then and it said you'd need to make a minimum payment of $550 to pay it off in 10 years per month. $550. So it doubled. The total interest paid would be $41,000.
Holy.
So my total payback from borrowing $25,000, I would end up paying over 10 years $66,000 back.
Of only borrowing $25,000.
From borrowing $25,000 on a credit card.
That is so crazy.
So I think that puts it into a huge perspective that I think a lot of people don't realize that interest rate affects you dramatically.
Right.
And that also, if they're like, well, I need to take loans, do I do the credit card or do I do the federal loans?
Do the federal.
Do the federal loans. And not only that, with a credit card, I have to keep paying every month. They don't care.
And that affects your credit.
And that affects my credit.
Right.
And that whereas with my federal student loans, if I fall into a situation where it's like, okay, the $285 is becoming a difficult thing for me right now, I can contact them and be like, hey, can you work with me?
Yes.
So I can keep paying, but maybe right now I can pay a little less for a little while.
Yes. Because the federal government, they have like 10 to 12 programs for repayment.
Yeah.
And you literally file, you submit one application. They come back and say, these are all the programs that you qualify for. These are all the payments associated with these programs. These are the pros, these are the cons. How do you want to move forward? You know? And so from that moment, you can decide, like, this is what I can afford right now. So yeah, in that aspect, and two, working with financial aid throughout these whole years, I've always told students, that's the one call you want to pick up. Like, I know people always are like, ignore that bill collector.
Yeah.
But seriously, pick up that phone call from your federal student loans.
Yeah.
They are so helpful. They have so many options for you not to go into that negative standing, right? So that you can still go to school, so you can still have that breathing room to decide what it is that, you want to do.
You had mentioned earlier that if you get all of these awards and it's more than you would need to say pay your tuition and books, right? You end up getting a refund. Can I spend it on whatever I want?
Yes, you can. I receive refunds. I like to use them on my groceries and, buying new shoes and stuff like that. They never really come back to you and be like, what did you do with it? No, they're just like, do whatever you want with it. 1 year I did buy my own laptop, so that was really nice. So you can use it for whatever you want. I know people use it for like gas money or saving it for stuff or, to buy a car or things like that. So you can honestly use it for anything that you want.
Investing.
Yes.
I have people walk in with checks all the time and they get so scared. They're like, what do I do with this?
Yes.
Like, do I have to give this back to you? Like,
Yeah.
why do I have this? And so no, the way like it works is we pay ourselves first. So we pay ourselves with the tuition with your Pell Grant, and then we would give you a book advance. So I believe about 9 business days before your earliest class start date. And we'll give you a book advance that's pulled already from your remaining refund. And we'll give that to you first. And then 9 days after the class starts, we'll give you the rest of the refund. And you can opt in whether you want that check or direct deposit. and we'll give that to you. And we always tell the students to make sure that their address is updated on file, because a lot of times they forget to move. Like when people move, I know it's hectic. You got to change a lot of things when you move, and you have to put in your new address with a lot of things. And so some places or whatever you're using just slip out of mind, which is us. And a lot of the times it's the check gets sent to the wrong addresses, and we need to make sure that their addresses are up to date. Or if they get scared of touching the check and they don't touch it, it expires after 90 days, and then they have to get it reissued, which is a whole nother thing. So we just always want to make sure everything's up to date, or you have your direct deposit information, which can be updated in your student center.
The only thing that I'll add to that
Okay.
is, yes, you can use it for whatever you want, but when you don't use it for what you need for school, and then you try to come back and say, I need more money, right, that's where we're going to kind of not look at you and say, like, well, what did you use your money for? It's just like, we can't give you anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we've
There's a
already
limit.
given you what you're eligible for, and the max limit, and, you know, things of that nature. So we always encourage students to get your school stuff first, books, supplies, whatever, and then use it for rent, use it for bills, transportation, you know. Then if you still have stuff left over, use it for whatever you want.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that too. I actually had a student that came in, and I think he came to the wrong place on accident, but he had a check in his hand and he said, I don't know what this is for. And he was like terrified because he's like, I've never gotten a check before. Do I have to give this to you guys? Like, what is this for? And he had absolutely no idea. And I was like, that's your book advance. That's money for you.
Yeah.
And he was like, but what does that mean? Like, he was so scared. And so I was like, that's money that we're giving you from your grants that you can use for your supplies and your books for school, so that you don't have to take that out of your own pocket. And walk him through the process, like, you gotta deposit it, make sure you do it within this time frame. But then he's like, what do I use it on? Like, do I have to use it on books? And I was like, well, what do you need first?
Yeah.
Like, do you need books? Do you need supplies? Do you need to set money aside for something else, like a laptop? And then I was like, then you can kind of use it on what you want if there's any remaining. Even if you get more than a book advance back, like you get an actual refund, try and set some aside for savings, because you never know what your financial situation will be next semester.
Right.
Maybe you need that money next semester too. So you don't have to use it for exactly this, and this, but try to at least save some aside, because you don't know where you'll be next semester, let alone next year. So.
Yeah.
True.
Or even with your program, certain programs have like these ungodly fees, like nursing and dental, right? Sometimes that term, your financial aid isn't enough to pay for those extra fees. It's just for your tuition. So like Bree said, if you can hold on to this money that was extra, hopefully it'll benefit you in the future when you have to pay for a big, instrumental kit or whatever for your program that you need.
Yeah.
For loans.
All right.
Loans.
We got one more question here. If you could go back and give your younger self some advice about affording college, what would that advice be?
Oh, man.
Take as much dual enrollment as you can in high school. Get those prerequisites out of the way. So it's like by then, when you graduate high school, you're already like a quarter of the way or even halfway done. I took dual enrollment my senior year, and I wish I really did it earlier, because I just took my English courses out of the way, and I wish I could have also done like my math courses, my like social courses, like anything you can get in high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I would say, don't be afraid to reach out to your high school counselors as early as you can. I didn't think about that, my younger self, and so just getting yourself prepared and getting it started earlier than later, you're just going to be able to enjoy it later.
For me, well, since I am first gen, I think it's a little bit scarier about whole FAFSA thing. I was the first one in my entire family to go to college, so
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I just didn't know exactly what was FAFSA, what was financial aid. I didn't know much about student loans, and all I heard was money. money. And it's like, as long as it pays for my classes, I don't care where it comes from. And so I feel like if I would told my younger self, talk to someone who works there at, like, the campus, because I just feel like I didn't want to bother anyone, or I felt like my questions were stupid or stuff like that. But when in actuality, a lot of people asked a lot of the same questions. And I feel like if I would have just told my younger self, like, hey, go talk to someone who actually knows about this kind of stuff and like that, about financial aid, I feel like I would have done so much better with my loans and that kind of stuff. So I would say always ask questions. There are no dumb questions. There, like, we've heard it a bunch of times. Maybe we've never heard it. So like, it's a learning experience for us too.
I have a few words of advice. So as a student myself, and I am a first generation college student as well, I will say that start saving early, because like myself, I'm not Pell eligible. Like, I don't qualify for all these grants because of my family's financial situations. So I would always say, if a student is in that position where they don't qualify for a Pell Grant or these extra grants that is federally funded, I will say definitely research scholarship opportunities. Like, I am on a scholarship here at MCC that's paying for my full tuition for just having good grades. I mean, that's an amazing opportunity that I think a lot of students can take advantage of, is to fill out these scholarships that are actually just free money. Just if you meet the requirements, you can totally get your tuition paid for. I think definitely that is a good option for a lot of students to research if they want to have aid for their school.
So I feel like I was also a first gen student, but I was a little different because me and my mom actually went to school at the same time. So she never went to college before, so it was new to both of us. But when I was in high school, I was not thinking about college. I was like, I am tired of school. I need to take a break. And I wasn't really thinking about the future self, because even if I wanted to take a break, which I did, I could have still learned about FAFSA, prepared, applied for colleges, and I never did that. So I never knew anything about FAFSA until I was already applying for college a year and a half later. And one of the things that I really regret is not knowing anything about scholarships, like Emily said. Like, I didn't know, I knew I've heard of scholarships, right? But I didn't know where to start, what to look for, what applies for me. So I never applied for scholarships my whole college career. And I really wish that I did, because, some people can get Fulbright scholarships. And I probably could have done that if I had tried, but I never did. So I would say my younger self, definitely look for scholarships, ask for help, apply for FAFSA, even if I'm not planning to go right away, just so I know what I'm getting into.
All right. Anybody have anything else that they want to mention?
Just come see us in the enrollment center. If you need help with your FAFSA.
Yes, if you need help with your FAFSA, we are doing workshops twice a week. I'm also doing virtual workshops every other Monday for those who can't attend in person. So I'm even helping students that aren't MCC students. That's okay. If you need help, if you have technical questions, whatever the case is, I can try and help and, get you on your way, or even get you contact information for who you need to talk to. But we just want to know that everyone is welcome. If you need help, just let us know. We're there for you. If you can't make those workshop times, just come into the enrollment center and we can help you too.
Yep, anytime.
Well, thank you, Myra, Emery, Janet, Emily, Bree, and Tan, for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk with us on College Cash Corner. We'd like to give a shout out to the New Media Lab, who helps make this podcast possible. And students, the New Media Lab experience can help you with your media projects too. Before we go, we'd like to remind students that college is your gateway to a brighter financial future. At MCC, we're here to help you master your money. Visit the financial literacy section on the financial aid website to book a one-on-one appointment, access your free cash course account, and stay updated on workshops and events. Stay informed, stay savvy, and keep climbing.